Hello, you. Welcome back to the library. Let's get our game on. For many of you out there, the greatest generation of game libraries and consoles were around when you were just a kid, and that usually meant you could only afford one system at the time. This video is a starter guide for all those who chose the Nintendo 64 route, but always wanted to play, yet never got to, the PlayStation in its prime. With these starter guides, there are two general rules I follow. We have a set budget, but we also only can't go over 10 games. Due to the backwards compatibility of the PS2 and the PS3, I'll leave which hardware you want to play on, but please be aware that there are compatibility issues on the PS2 and the PS3. For this guide, we have a $200 budget, so to get our best bang for the buck, we need to have two sets of games. The first group are the transition games. Titles that you either played on the N64, but have better options on the PlayStation, or they play similarly to something on the Fun machine. We need 3 games for this category, and they're all bangers. Partially playing off the N64's launch era, these contenders will place you to a familiar territory and allow you to get used to the PlayStation's controller. Taking over Mario's mascot duties, we Spyro the Dragon, in this case, the original. Averaging $25 on eBay, our feisty little dragon provides a wonderful starting point for players needing that familiar playstyle and feel. If you take a liking to it, there are 2 more adventures waiting for you. Second, in the transition games is Mortal Kombat Trilogy. Particularly because in the original time frame, it was always an argument of loading time versus content, and I can assure you, the load times on the PlayStation are a small sacrifice to pay for a much better experience with more content. Players can find more animation frames, more characters, playable bosses, and backgrounds that don't look like they were built on an NES. It's also a great way to get used to button placements on the controller. For the Mortal Kombat purists, snag the Greatest Hits version as it's a 1.1 code update that brings the gameplay a bit closer to Ultimate MK3. This one sets you back about $40, but still far cheaper than the original $70 N64 price tag. Our final transition game comes from Crash Team Racing. This one's a no-brainer. It replaces Mario Kart, but with a little more zaniness under the hood. You would need a multi-tap and 3 extra controllers for the 4-player experience, but it's a small price to pay for smacking someone with a nitro crate. Thanks to the multiple releases, this one sets you back a measly $20. Now that we have you accustomed to the controller and back into a familiar groove, let's get to what you've been missing. The last 4 choices are exploratory games, a chance to play something you really couldn't on the Nintendo's Fun machine, but also not be thrown right into the hardcore mix of things. We have $115 left to spend, so let's dive into the deepest and richest pool the PlayStation has to offer: role-playing games. Don't worry, I know about both Zelda games, but aside from that, all you guys really had was Quest 64, and ain't no one got time for that nonsense. Longtime PlayStation owners are probably screaming at the screen right now, calling out their picks, but I went with Sony's Legend of Dragoon. This was an easy choice for several reasons. First, it's gorgeous taking the now iconic PlayStation-style CG backgrounds with polygon characters, so it sets you up for its peers. Second, the game's additional system. Rather than simple menu choices, the addition system allows you to time a button press to earn additional damage or attacks. It keeps the player involved in the fight, especially if they've never played a classic-style role-playing game before. Third, unlike the Espers and Call spells in Final Fantasy, the transformation into the Dragoon armor never gets old. Just look at how cool that outfit is. It is the most expensive game on our list at $60, but it's a great gateway drug into the rest of the RPG library. Second on the list is Namco's fantastic Soul Blade. If MK Trilogy satisfies the 2D fighting, Soul Blade more than takes care of the 3D fighting, and lets players bask in gorgeous visuals. The simple button layout combined with the super smooth gameplay makes it an amazing launchpad into the PlayStation's library as a whole. Even better, at most this sets us back $30 from the kitty. With Edge mode taken into account, it's worth every penny. With $35 left in our budget, it's time to make our final 2 purchases. $15 will snag us the original Tomb Raider. Admittedly, it can feel dated in the controls, but the first game absolutely nailed the actual vibe of exploration and curiosity while lost in the caverns and caves of the world. There's a beauty in the silence, slowly scanning the corners of every room looking for the hidden items, and always keeping your finger on the weapon draw button. Finally, with $10 left, it's an easy snag with Skydiving Extreme. I covered this fun arcade-like game with an official review a while back, so you can get the core information there. The reason it's here in the buyer's guide is that, like Legend of Dragoon, it's a fantastic gateway game to the PlayStation's lineup of simple, budget-friendly games that dot the landscape and at one point retail shelves everywhere. And there we go. A great lineup of games to help Nintendo 64 owners transition into a new retro game system. What did you think of the guide? Should I do more? Should they be themed? Let me know in the comments section. That aside, what PlayStation games would you suggest to someone who's trying to branch out from Nintendo 64? Leave your top 5 suggestions in the comments below and we'll get the conversation started with everyone. As always, guys, stay safe, play games, and I'll see you next episode. See you later.